Right, that's just starting to come up.
We're all good to go, are we, Di?
Yep, we're live, yep.
Well, welcome back everyone to this public extraordinary council meeting. Our topic is the draft annual plan 22-23. Now, at this point, are there any further questions on the draft annual plan 22-23 at this point? If not, is there anyone who wants to move something? We've got 3 recommendations in front of us, and whether there's any additional recommendations to be moved. So yeah, but I assume that these questions or
I'm happy to move. I know that last week I haven't looked at the game and I thought the order should change. I'd like to have 1 stays the same, that 3 stays the same, with the addition of a comment in the chair's message that council encourage all ratepayers to have their say, and to, especially about affordability. I think we put it out to the community. And you know, it's a really hard one. We've spent 2 hours on this, and we know this stuff really well. It's hard on the community. And then 2, stay the same, noting the above community resolution. That's a straw man, just to get the debate going, if that helps you.
yeah, no, that's good. So just do you want it?
Yep.
Okay, so move. Okay, I'm going to come back to you.
Did you get that, Di, or do I need to write that formally?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you properly. Sorry, if you can.
Yes.
Yep, let me know again.
And can you just clarify, Kate, whether you are renumbering?
Yep.
You're bringing 3 up to 2. Or
Yes, I just thought it made sense. And sorry, that's something I did last week. I haven't really looked at it. Just seemed to make sense in the order of things. So that 1 stays the same. 3 becomes 2, and stays the same with the addition of a comment in the chair's message that the council encourage all ratepayers to have their say. Sorry, and especially on matters of affordability. And then we can act at the hearing stage on that. And 2 same, no, noting the amended resolution above. Now that probably doesn't make any sense now that I've changed it slightly, but yeah. So 2 becomes 3.
Okay, and but remains the same.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you pick all that up, Di?
No, sorry, I didn't catch all of what Kate said.
I'll send by email.
Thank you.
Could you put on the screen, Di? Please. Yeah. I sent it last week as always, but I've just changed it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just going the wrong pages.
Okay. Just be about a minute or so until Di has that, all those recommendations electronically, and then we'll have them up on the screen. Would be great.
I'm just wondering, the information that was available today on the average rates and the maximum and fine, and thank you very much for doing that work. Will that be able to be added somewhere to the communication?
Question for Nick.
It's probably better to for if I think Mike's there, if Mike could, because he's taking care of that process and the actual comms material that's going out. So whether he can modify the actual communication, the document that's going out, or whether we can, obviously we can, put this other information, like we can put the presentation that we've done here, we can add that to our website and have it available for people to look at. But I don't know what Mike may or may not be able to do around, or would be thinking around the the actual comms that is more widely publicised.
Short answer is yes.
Thank you.
We don't need a motion for that to be done.
It'll just happen. Thank you.
And thank you. That was a lot of work. I appreciate that, but I think it made the picture a lot better. I've now said that.
Excellent. Thank you.
So it does to the same point. Yeah,
It's quite a different point, actually.
no, it's a straw man, and I'm just wanting to start.
I'll go to you in a moment. Okay, speak to it.
Can I ask, when you say on matters of affordability, to me, affordability is nothing unless you know what service you're getting for it. You know, like I'd be prepared to spend $10 on something that's worth $10 to me, but if they said, do you want to spend $100? That might turn out to be only worth $10 to me. So affordability on its own doesn't make any sense to me to encourage.
Okay.
I'm just
Right in front of you, I'll just ask the question whether the chair and the mover and the seconder want to make that amendment now or not, or want to consider it, and that's fine. If they don't want to consider it, that's fine. Hillary's going to raise it during the debate anyway. But
I'm putting it up as a straw man. I'm not holding on to it. I'm just trying to get us to a point where that staff can understand where we're going to. Yep. So what we really want, some people will come in with their pet projects when they do a draft plan. This is about.
I think we'd be better that we just run with the debate and we'll take it from there. Thank you for putting those up, Di. I assume everyone can see them and have read them. Should the word draft be in there in both 1 and 2 prior to annual?
Yes, because we haven't.
So that's, and the 3 has.
Number 2 is also draft.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Okay. So,
Proposed draft.
But and I changed the order.
so if 3 can become 2, please.
Who's the supporting information?
It's in the order.
Engagement.
Oh, you just mean it, what's in the.
All the engagement process was in the original report that we received last week.
So are you anticipating that the supporting information?
Hang on, well, let's just go to debate, because I just want to keep this nice and tight without getting off track and getting back into questions.
Thank you.
So there's a question right at the front end before we go into debate from Michael Wills.
Thank you. Can you please tell me what the supporting information for community engagement will be? And point that out for the purposes of this motion.
So, Mike, we received with last week's report, the outline of the comms plan, engagement plan, etc. Is there some brief comment that you can make just to summarise what that's all about? It's probably in paragraph 39 of the original report, essentially meetings with partners and stakeholders were requested. But is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
So there's 2 bits to it. There's the broad community consultation, which is the feedback mechanism via our Your Say platform. And then there's letters that we are sending out to what we'd call stakeholders, and there was some discussion, I accept, at last meeting around that word. But to put it simply, to organisations and groups that consulted in the last LTP, we're sending out letters to those people and just, inviting them to give feedback. And then at another layer, there are some staff meetings with organisations that we have some statutory requirements, like our district councils and city councils, and engaging with them on current work programs that we have where it is appropriate with regard to this annual plan. So that's at a staff level and would happen anyway. So that's if I'm hearing you right, that's the engagement part of it. And then there's the deliverables that were associated with that, the report that's on the table, which is the draft annual plan, the content that goes on the Allsay platform that includes the chair's forward, and yeah, I think and the advertising messaging. Thanks.
Excellent.
Page 8 of the council papers.
Page 8 of the council papers. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any further questions before we go into debate? Alexa.
I just want to make sure that what we're talking about here in these recommendations is going out with the 18%, the original documents and our original amounts, with an encouragement from the chair to comment particularly around affordability. Is that what we're doing?
That's my understanding.
That's mine too. Good. That's fine. Thank you.
There's nothing else been moved other than those three motions, which, as you say, confirm the paper from last week. Yes.
So as we were after a really good look at everything. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Michael Deaker.
Thanks, Andrew. I don't think that was Michael Law's question. I think Michael might have disappeared, but what he asked was, what is the supporting information referred to that is going to be available to ratepayers at the time of this consultation? And I'd like to know the answer to that too. I think Mike was slightly misled by you, Andrew. It's the supporting information being made available to ratepayers was the question. What is it?
It's the information that was presented to you at the last meeting.
So we had an attachment that included messaging for use in communication channels.
Yep, I get all that, but that's not going to the ratepayer, surely.
Mike, did you want to outline, because this is quite a different process than we followed 12 months ago. So do you want to just outline the concept of this consultation process that we're heading down as compared with last year, if you want to refer to last year?
Well, last year's was a special constitutional procedure, and we had some, three proposals that was centred around. With this consultation, we have no specific proposals other than the full draft annual plan, which is reflecting our Year 2 LTP. And at the 23 Feb Finance Committee meeting, the committee decided that we would consult via our online platform. And that's the principal way that we're reaching out to our communities and offering them the opportunities to provide us feedback, and to let them know that this opportunity exists. We've got an advertising campaign that pretty much, and Jo Gaylor might jump in here if she needs to, if I'm not quite covering it right, but we've got an advertising campaign that's reaching out through, principally through all our newspapers, local and regional, and there's other channels as well, including social media, and Jo could jump in there if I've missed something. And so when you jump onto that online platform, you will see the content that's attached to the reports. And following this discussion today, that content's going to be modified somewhat to reflect the affordability issues that have come out of this meeting. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, Councillor Deaker.
Thanks, Mike.
Jo, did you want to add to that comment of Mike's?
Yeah, no, nothing further to add. Yeah, Mike's covered it off very well. We are planning a strong advertising push for the campaign, and that does include also digital advertising. I'm not quite sure if Mike mentioned that as well. But yeah, we want to be able to drive people to the Your Say webpage and get good engagement.
Thank you. No further queries, questions. We'll go to Kate, speaking to the motions that you've moved.
Thank you to the staff for all the work that's gone in the last week. It's hard, and I think what has been good is that we have tried within the limits of the LTA and being able to change things through the process. But I also think that we did get a firm mandate last year in the long-term plan to do some change and to increase expenditure. To try and do that now or cut things without having first heard from the community, I think is fraught. But I really encourage the community, if they've got affordability issues, and I don't want to presume that, because as we've been told, that sometimes just delays the cost and may cost more. I just encourage everyone to get involved in this annual plan process in order to give us encouragement and direction where we should be going. And I certainly hope that we'll be spending some time over the next few months before the hearings reflecting on any changes that we could bring as savings and thinking about that so that we're best informed when it comes to that debate.
Thanks, Kate. Can I just clarify one thing? My understanding with the process that we're going to go through, there won't be hearings. Yeah, have I got that right?
Sorry, deliberations.
Yeah, cool. No,
Deliberations. Apologies.
no, just.
Yeah.
Carmen is the second to speak to the motions.
I concur with Councillor Wilson, and I think the comms thing will be very important. And I'd like to be able to see that I can pick up the local radio Technilly and to see that people down there will have a say. And you've got to remember, there's a lot of elderly people, not all of them perhaps can jump online.
Yeah.
This is my big concern.
Yeah.
Always been my big concern. I see it every year. So those are the people we've got to somehow reach out to. Thanks.
Thank you. Further speakers? Hilary?
I'm not supporting this, not because in general, I don't think we need to move forward and put it out for consultation at some level, but because it's a truncated consultation process between the long-term plans, the effect of that is that we are going to particularly talk to a group of key stakeholders. This is the proposal, and this is what we're going to do when or if this passes. When we're concerned about affordability and rates increases, and the key stakeholders are almost to a man or to a woman or to an organisation, people who don't pay rates. And so that's one objection I have to it, that we're focusing on talking to people who we consider key stakeholders who have no stake in a financial sense, and we're concerned about affordability. The second problem for me is that I don't think it's just a matter of affordability, it's a matter of value for money. And something might be affordable to people, but they don't consider it to be value for money. And it might be that they would be prepared to consider it affordable if it was good value for money. But affordability isn't something you can look at on its own. Are you prepared to pay this amount of money? Unless you know what you're getting for it, it makes no sense. So to me, even when we ask the ratepayers' input, to say we're concerned about affordability and would they like to have a comment on that, I can't see how they can even comment on that without knowing what it is. And talking about service levels doesn't get it there for me, because really what people want to know is what effect would that have on what the LRC provides. Does that mean that you halve the buses or something, or have we doubled the buses or something? You know, for some people it might be that paying more for their buses and getting $2 fares and encouraging people to use them is real good value for money. And for other people, they just be saying, why aren't the people from Palmerston paying what it costs to run a bus, for heaven's sake? So for those two reasons, one, that affordability on its own is to me nothing the key underlying factor, is value for money. And two, that we're focusing our consultation on asking specifically people like territorial authorities who aren't paying any rates and who will be very keen to have a chat about what services we might like to provide with our ratepayers, knowing that that might save them money and funds. Just seems to be a bit broad. I won't be voting for it.
Thank you. Further speakers? Brian?
Sure, thank you. With the LTP, we acknowledge that the ORC was catching up on its work and responding to central government expectations to do more. And the community generally agreed. And this 18% rate increase proposal, plus all the work, the positive work that it encompasses, is year two of that LTP. And just as a matter of interest, if there's any uncertainty in the community about the 18%, the scale of it, that scale translates to a total of $68 per ratepayer per year if you're paying targeted and general rate. If you're only paying general rate, it's actually $34 for the general rate per year. It's basically less than $1 a week. I'm hoping that when the ratepayers and the consultation process, that they'll see that they're continuing to get value for money, and that this council needs to do what it needs to do to protect the environment and to fulfill its role. Thank you.
Thank you. Further speakers? Kevin?
I just thought Gary had his hand up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Gary.
Yes, thank you. I found this process really interesting because we have engaged with our community very strongly across the past couple of years. We asked a lot of our community last year, and bearing in mind that year before that, we have asked more of our community each year, and each year incremental rates increases have gone up, and they've always been considered to be very small amounts. Former chairman used to refer to them as a cup of tea every year per week. And then we had a massive increase in the past year, followed by a highlighted massive increase, because 18% is massive in the scheme of things, for this year. And it's cumulative. So it's 18% upon that massive increase last time, cumulatively. So we have asked a lot of our ratepayers, and we needed everything to go absolutely perfectly. And my observations today and discussions and questions were about, to date, we've finally seen some forecasts today of where we're going to end up, forecasted to the end of the financial year. Has that massive increase gone as we predicted? And then can we project that prediction on into the following year? Now, in business, in any year when you have an exponential change like that and you have some massive changes, you need some consolidation and you need some consideration of the changes that might have occurred across that year and the changes that are externally sitting out around the organisation. And in this community organisation, the changes that are going to affect our ratepayers. And what I've seen today is a total lack of willingness to compromise across the genuine concerns made by the councillors representing their residents around, are we getting value for money? Is there more that could be delayed or deferred? Not saying take it away. What we've seen is just a constant approach of nothing must change from what we predicted last time. We must continue on the path that we have done. But your councillors aren't saying totally wipe all of the key works that must be done across this triennium, and has been predicted for us to do. Totally wipe them, just maybe defer some, maybe look for some tweaking and changing across our business as usual that might have instead of 16 highlighted staff members needed, maybe 14 in that sector. And that could make some significant changes. And I haven't seen the willingness to consider that at that level. So I'm really concerned. I think we do have to ask the community now, but I think the community like us are in almost an impossible situation because all the emotive items are going to come to the fore, but yet the key things are not being discussed. So I won't be voting for it. Thank you.
The speakers, Kevin.
Yeah, look, I will support this to get it out into our public. But I'm exceptionally disappointed and just echo the comments that Councillor Kelleher has just said. We have an exceptional pathway that we're going down with our 48% and 80% increase. That was about making the ORC fit for action, fit for the job that it's meant to do. And since we took that stance, I have been exceptionally excited about the direction we're taking. So that's just an absolute given. And we've done, staff have done an exceptional job to head down that track. So I've got no problems with that. We have simply asked, in a world, in a very, very changing world, can we do something a wee bit different? Can we do it a wee bit better? Is there something that we haven't tried that will make this 18% increase a little bit more palatable for our ratepayers? And that's actually all we've asked. We don't want to change our direction. But so I believe we should take it to our ratepayers. But what I would in sending it out, I'd be asking that our CE continues to explore cost savings and make sure those cost savings are still going to deliver our planned service deliveries, but reduce the 18% increase that we have proposed. So I'm still asking that question. I'll continue to ask that question and do my own work and behind the scenes. But in reality, we are on a track that 48 and the 18%, we have to do it for our people. We have to do it for our environment. But we have got to recognise what's happening in the world. So I'll leave it at that. I will be supporting the motion, and I would hope that my community will be on the phone, on the website, on whatever they can to certainly express their opinions.
Thank you. I'll go to Michael Deaker, then Gretchen, then Alexa.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I just wonder what meeting Gary Keller has been at today. I haven't heard any staff member, whether it be the CEO or the General Manager Finance, say that things must be done, that no change is possible. Nick has painstakingly pointed out where the increases are and where cuts could be made if we were of a mind. He has frequently asked us to give him a guideline as to where we want to make cuts, if we do want to make cuts. I think it was grossly unfair for Councillor Kelleher to suggest that the staff were putting up brick walls and saying, no, you must not change anything. Quite the reverse. The changes, the possibilities of changes have been put on the table in front of us. No question about that. But in general sense, I'm going to agree with Councillor Malcolm and Councillor Wilson and others. I will support this motion to hear from our ratepayers with a particular ear open to where they think there are issues of affordability. And we'll have to make decisions further down the track once we have heard from them. Because I'm still of a mind that given the circumstances we are in, both globally and locally, affordability is going to be a significant issue, even though the net impact for many of us around the table is not significant. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Gretchen.
Thanks, Councillor Deaker. That was very well said. We do have an agreement with our community already, and it's only right that we do ask them whether they wish to defer or change the things that we promised. I do suspect that much of our community, especially the younger generations, would encourage the investment now. Delaying environmental action saves a small amount now, but defers and escalates costs, as Councillor Wilson has said as well. Those who really make the costs would be future ratepayers. Restoring a degraded system is always more expensive than maintaining an ongoing work program. Whether it be a polluted stream, a rabbit plague, a weed infestation, whatever it is, it's far better to act now than delay. If it's tough now, then we do need to imagine how tough it would be for our kids and grandkids to shoulder. And also we have had a chance, as others have pointed out, to hear what it is in our work program that's causing the 18% increase for year 2. That's been very transparent, and it's things like an air plan, lake strategic plan, biodiversity work, hazards, emergency management, and climate change strategy. Some councillors would say we should tweak that, but have put no leadership forward in terms of what it is that they actually would like to cut. All of those things seem very important to me. We're here today facing increasing costs because previous councils did exactly what some would put forward to do today. Cutting back levels of service to skeletal activity is actually irresponsible. Which activities is it that we would see that being an appropriate action? I can't see any of those I've just named as being them. Smoothing actual costs over time, which is what this LTP has done, is responsible and is the type of accounting that I think that, and obviously our community thought we needed to do to ensure that we do what we need to do over the next 10 years. So yeah, as I've already said, the only fair thing, and everyone else has said that as well, essentially, is to ask our community what they would wish to alter in an annual plan, rather than us to have any random assumptions on our community's behalf at this point as to the activities or projects that they don't feel are important anymore. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Scott. It is a $34 a year increase in general rates we're talking about for the average ratepayer. And it's important to note as well for those on low incomes, the government does do a rates rebate as well. So that's something that people need to be aware of as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexa.
Thank you. I won't repeat what Gretchen has said, but I completely support all of that. So I'll just say some other things. I think that we know where we're going. We know the work that needs to be done. Our staff have worked hard to structure our organisation to deliver a far more demanding work program than ORC has ever attempted before, as far as I know. We've communicated this really strongly with our communities. We've had huge feedback, and the communities backed us. They've backed this process. They backed, the whole process of rebuilding that we've undertaken. And now this process, which we don't actually have to undertake, year 2 of a long-term plan, we're retesting that backing. And that's enough. I don't believe the communities I'm part of will want to see the sort of cuts that would have to be made to save an average of less than $70 per year per ratepayer. And yes, I am concerned about affordability, but there are other ways to get involved in that. I am more concerned about getting the environmental and social work that we are responsible for done, and I think our communities are too. So I can't support deferring the air plan further. I can't support reducing work in our integrated catchment approaches. I can't support reduction in our biodiversity work. I can't support saving now for a far greater cost later, and I can't support presupposing what our community thinks. So despite ourselves, we've actually built relationships through creating a work plan that's designed to make enduring long-term impacts on our environment and our communities. And our communities support that. They have supported that. So I support the retesting of last year's decision-making that is going out with this plan as it is with our communities. Let's get on with getting it out there. I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Andrew. You've always
I suppose that's fine if I have, it's fine.
Yeah, no,
No,
yeah,
no,
I've got to be consistent.
rules,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
fine.
well,
Sure. I have to say I'm very, very disappointed in today. And we have really deferred a decision that we effectively made last Wednesday. There has been around this table and with the staff, I think, a collective lack of intellect and imagination. And our community can justly feel disappointed with us and a little bit disgusted. I'm not one of those who believes that consultation documents really have any integrity or validity. Local government draft annual plans are really exercises in sophistry, and the consultation process is insincere. If you put out a draft annual plan with an 18% rate increase, then that's pretty much what's going to happen. And the reason there is so little public engagement in these sorts of things is because the public knows that too. Can I answer a couple of things though? The question is, what's changed since we did the annual plan or the long-term plan last year? And the answer is the world. You know, I'm looking at people who clearly don't actually have any cognizance of the external factors that have impacted and imposed upon this country and upon our communities in general. I don't want to have to list them all, but they're just things that seem to have skipped the imagination, like the massive increase in inflation, which seems to be burgeoning and which is predicted to get to about 7.5% to 9%, depending on who you listen to over the coming year. This will particularly affect those on fixed incomes, many of whom will have no opportunity to escape it. The explosion of Omicron, which no one predicted when we were doing our long-term plan, and is now having a massive effect upon a local economy in Otago. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, it just seems to be, is this a new reality show for some people? Because this is really happening and its effects upon the international economy will be felt for years, but let's not worry about that. And then the flow-on effect of all these to our affected communities locally. Can I also just answer those who say, oh, listen, this isn't much money. I guess you can say that when you're on very large salaries. But for $65 to $70 a year, which is the minimum that will be imposed upon our ratepayers, that's a significant sum of money. I know that not many people, unfortunately, would have had the experience, or fortunately, of trying to work out how to pay the bills. But when the ASB and other esteemed bankers are saying that the annual cost, or the weekly cost of all these changes is going to mean a reduced income of $150 per week upon households in our community, then we have a responsibility to step up and say, well, not us. And what are we doing? They're saying us. Let's go. It's only money. I can't support this plan. We had plenty of opportunity to sit down and talk about how we're going to change it. I can say, though, for those who have been around here, one of the things about the Otago Regional Council is that it is long overdue for an efficiency review. How are we spending the money that we're taking in? Is there more an effective and efficient way to do so? We're a monopoly supplier of a service that makes us inherently, can I just say, Mr. Longley, inefficient. If you're a monopoly supplier of a service, then 99 times out of 100, you're not an efficient organisation. So we do need to do an efficiency review, and I back Councillor Malcolm on the necessity for that being important and starting as soon as possible. I'd love to be able to support this plan, Andrew, but I think we have failed. I hope that we get the feedback that we have, and I hope then we can sit down and address that feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. My comments in terms of affordability, let's not second guess what our community thinks about affordability. Part of the reason why we're going out to consult is to ask them to tell us what their views are on an 18% increase. Number two, I think one of the most important things we do as a governance arm of this organisation is actually trigger this process we've got a statutory requirement to do that. I know that the debate around the table is about 18%, but all I'm saying, one of the most important things we do is actually trigger this process and involve the community and obviously finally make a decision before the end of June. So I'm just reiterating that this is a really important process, and you know, the debate around the table has been valid, and I think this morning, coming to this meeting this morning, the back of my mind, I was thinking, yeah, surely there'll be some savings to be able to be made, but the reality is the complex nature of the way an organisation like a council operates. Things just don't start and end in a defined period like they do perhaps in your private lives. The example of many projects that are integrated over a 2-3 year program, I think just highlights the challenges that we have to try and, I suppose, shave off or tighten up budgets going forward. That's just the, I suppose, the nature of the business. Others have alluded to the journey that we're on and the significant rate increase that we had last year. We confronted with the 18% for 22, 23, 12% the following year, 23, 24. So this journey to right the ship is, we're only, you could say we're midway, to be fair to say, could be a little bit further, but the steps from here on in are probably the most difficult steps. And we're going to have to be bold and be strong, and we will get there with the community. But I'm not saying right here and now it will be 18%. I'm accepting that you know, we may end up on a different number on the 23rd of June this year. But the reality is that we are still playing catch up. There are a number of work programs, whether it's in the planning space, the regulatory space. We're still plugging gaps that have been deficient over the years, and that work must continue. So I'm looking forward to the feedback that we get, and I look forward to the council making a commitment to have this annual plan adopted on the 23rd of June. Kate, you're right to reply.
Thank you. I moved this pro forma. We needed to have somewhere to go. I appreciate this is a short time frame. While the world has changed, some of it has been very, very recent changes in the war, which is in many ways the one that I think will have the longer lasting and most unknown, is relatively new. May it be short, but whichever case, I think we need to realise that the world has changed, but the time frames doesn't suit our processes. And so we're going to have to spend the next month and really thinking about some challenging stuff. And I'm hoping that I'm inviting the chairs of finance to consider some workshops that we can get down to some even nothing and grittier stuff than we have done today. It's been great. However, to get to that, I just have to express an absolute frustration from some of the councillors here who sit around as Dunedin representatives and want to take an average without looking at what the diversity of Otago gives, and some of those rate increases that are not average, that are going to rural, that are going to lifestyle, that aren't residential. And while Dunedin may have substantially residential and be quite near that 65 or 68, there's a hell of a lot that aren't. And those same rural, for example, will be the same people that are picking up that substantial increase in regulatory and having a much fraught and difficult time getting through some of those things. So I want to acknowledge those people who are going to have substantially more than that. And this is the whole stadium debate that got through on a cup of coffee a week. Colston never was that for half of them, and I think it really frustrates me that when people want to deal with averages, because we ain't an average place at all. We're far, far above average. I also want to express that I am doing this in acknowledgement that we've asked the Minister about the Land and Water Regional Plan. Whatever happens with that may be something that can tie into this, and there may be savings. And that's a moot point. We can't discuss it until we have those discussions with the Minister. But I'm hoping that there's some work to be done there. We can't. I'm also going to ask that the chair does this by division, because I think there are some matters that some people may agree with and not others. I totally agree with councillor Calvert that going to stakeholders who aren't ratepayers isn't particularly helpful. Although I'd also like to say that territorial authorities certainly do pay a substantial amount of rates for some of their grounds. So, but it is what it is. If you want to be constructive, please give any ideas, and I'm sure that the comm staff will be able to build in if anyone else should be consulted with or any other means. Can I also urge us as councillors to go out and talk to our community as much as we can to get that feedback? The process is to get the feedback, and then we can act. So I think we've got a role here as well. Please support this in order that we go forward, because otherwise we actually haven't got a direction to go. I don't think there's any alternative.
Thank you. Di, can we just go to a division and we'll perhaps just deal with each resolution separately, please?
Yes, certainly. So for number 1, councillor Calvert.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not, I'd rather see them all together because it's the totality of them that causes concern for me, not individually. Is it possible, are there some people who would vote for part of it and not the rest of it?
Hang on. So
Sorry,
are you talking about, we're going to have the resolutions separate?
Yes, I'm saying I'd like them together. If people aren't going to vote separately, I agree. All right.
Okay.
If this is the way we're going, I'm just going to say no to all of them individually. That's how it works.
I can't, well, I'm not sure about the, that we could decide on whether we can take them separately or not on a separate question or motion, so to speak. So we're now about to enter into a division. I don't think we've got the opportunity.
I'll just say no.
Correct. So perhaps if I put the first one, notes this report provides supporting information for community engagement on the proposed draft annual plan 22-23, and I'll just go to you, Di, for the division. Thank you.
Right, councillor Calvert.
Yes.
Sorry, yes. Is it?
It does.
One person voting at the top.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear.
Oh, sorry. You just continue on. Thank you, Di.
I didn't hear what councillor Calvert said. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes. Right. Councillor Deaker.
Yes.
Councillor Forbes.
Yes.
Councillor Hope.
Yes.
Councillor Callagher.
Yes.
Councillor Laws. Councillor Malcolm.
Yes.
Councillor Noon.
Yes.
Councillor Robertson.
Yes.
Councillor Scott.
Yes.
Councillor Wilson.
Yes.
Right. So that's 11-4. Passed.
11-4, none against.
Yep, that's correct.
Yep. Thank you. So we go to number 2, endorse the supporting information for community engagement on the proposed draft annual plan 22-23 and include a comment in the chair's message that the council encourage all ratepayers to have their say, especially on matters of affordability. In your hands, Di.
Councillor Calvert.
No.
Councillor Deaker.
Yes.
Councillor Forbes.
Yes.
Councillor Hope.
Yes.
Councillor Callagher.
No.
Councillor Laws. Sorry, I couldn't hear. Councillor Laws.
No, thank you.
It's a no.
All right, sorry, I couldn't hear. Councillor Malcolm.
Yes.
Councillor Noon.
Yes.
Councillor Robertson.
Yes.
Councillor Scott.
Yes.
Councillor Wilson.
Yes.
So 8-4 and 3 against. So motion passes.
Thanks, Di. Moving on to number 3, authorises community engagement for the draft annual plan 22-23 to begin. In your hands, Di.
Right, councillor Calvert,
No.
councillor Decker,
Yes.
councillor Forbes,
Yes.
councillor Hope. Sorry, I couldn't-
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Callagher,
No.
councillor Laws,
No.
councillor Malcolm,
Yes.
councillor Noon,
Yes.
councillor Robertson,
Yes.
councillor Scott,
Yes.
and councillor Wilson.
Yes.
So 8 votes for and 3 against. Motion passes.
Thank you very much, guys. So those three passed by majority. Just want to acknowledge everybody's contribution. It's the only item on the agenda. Thank you in particular to Sarah, Nick, Mike, Joe, and others who sat through this as well on the staff. And in terms of governance, thank you, councillors, for your contribution. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. The meeting now has concluded. Thank you.